So what is up, guys? You got your boy Jet Stingren here today, and today we are back with some sort of Convallaria content for you guys here today. And today we're gonna be doing a Beryl build video for you guys here today. I'm gonna go over my build choices, why did I choose to build, what is the main purpose of the build, some notable partners, and I'm gonna include some gameplay footage from Clash and a general demonstration on PvE. And that's going to be the whole course of the video. So I hope you guys like, comment, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in just a moment. Alright, so we're back with Beryl. This is what mine looks like. Yes, I did pick up the exclusive skin for her. I regret this entirely because I got some of my awards from the content creator program. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, I'll use a little bit of the luck site to get the skin and get the additional awards, but man, did that turn into a definite bad spending experience. So I would never do that again. If I get another event like this, I'm probably just gonna leave it alone and skip it, because it just eats away at your resources, which is pretty bad. And it's blame on me too, because I should have just held on to my resources for Cocoa. But anyway, it is what it is. We're here and we have the cute adorable skin here, the cutie tootie skin, I know. But anyway, so what is the point of this build? The point of this build is for Beryl to just be a straight up AoE nuker. The whole thing is really just for PvP, but this does work in some of the smaller PvE stages, being stages that you can take that usually have like a small field of enemies, and then you can just fire off the main skill of choice, which is going to be this skill right here, the Flaming Meteor skill. This is going to be a big damaging skill, but the next turn she's going to be unable to move. So make sure you are aware of this when using this skill. She won't be able to move her next turn, which isn't the terriblest thing because this skill has a very big amount of range, so it's going to be hard for enemies to kind of get near her, and she won't really be a sitting duck. But again, it really just depends on where it's casted, what's in front of her or what's around her, and if you can clean up within enough time for her to kind of be back online, which of course is an effective thing. But Beryl is pretty much one of the strongest units I've gotten to use, and she is primarily my strongest unit, so I do try to keep her as alive as I can. But let's talk about our skill choices, let's talk about our trait, and let's talk about everything like that. So our skill choices is, I did make a few questionable ones, like this one. I don't think you should get casual search at all. I thought it was a good idea just to kind of mess around for having like a simple based attack that you can use to have a different effect. Like for example, she can get like the fire Luxite skill, which actually has a knockback and a healing as a way for her to heal. I thought it was somewhat useful for a point in time, but it's not. I wouldn't recommend it if you ever pull Beryl. But Wall of Flame is the secondary skill I tend to use over Flaming Meteor if I'm in a more far out map. If it's like a really big map and I can't really group enemies together as quickly as I would like, or within a good enough space, then I just use Wall of Flame instead, because this does actually allow for enemies to take a little bit of extra damage over time. And yeah, next up is going to be Energy Restoration for our level 3 skill. This is a must because this stacks on top of her trait, and with how quickly Beryl does bump down her stamina, this allows for Beryl, with the combination of her trait, to pretty much be at 3 energy at all times, meaning she can spam her main attacking skill, Choo Choo Choo, every single turn without fail, which is pretty good. That is really good that she has access to a very strong on-demand attacking skill that she can just frequently spam because of the energy restoration that we did give her. Attack boost is okay, again, not necessarily needed for anything, but with the way that our skills are now lined up, there's no real reason for me to use it anymore. I thought about using it at a point in time just to give her a little bit of magic attack up as a support skill. Then she can go off and fire all strong Choo Choo Choos to nuke down enemies. But other than that, I don't think you should do it. But Cutie is going to be a reaction that increases range damage, which is a problem for Beryl because Beryl gets hit by a lot of ranged units from time to time. So that is pretty annoying. So Cutie is a very good way for her to kind of at least alleviate some of that damage. And of course, AoE damage is for the recruits by 40%, which is good. Next up is the big skill in question itself, which is going to be Flaming Meteor. Flaming Meteor is the big AoE skill that we tend to use that is going to basically eviscerate most enemies. And the really cool thing about after this is it inflicts fire tiles all over the range that it was casted in. This is a really good way to clean up enemies that don't die to your flaming meteor, especially if they're in the back end of your meteor, and you know how AI traditionally likes to target your unit that's closest. They will then start to walk into those flame tiles, taking extra damage for stepping on those tiles and ending to turn on those tiles, which will make them take even more damage, which sometimes is just enough to kill the unit, which is really nice. Next up is the rank 9 skill. We chose Scorching Attack, just as an attack that has a nice little debuff effect that's added on there for the Scorch effect, which allows them to lose 10% HP per turn. Bang doesn't sound bad because you can stun an enemy, but it's not really that needed over Scorch. I think the damage over time effect is definitely a bit better. But let's talk about the trait. So the trait here is that it gives Beryl a flat 16% boost of magic attack, which is good. At the start of the turn, she has from this range a 70% chance to gain one random 2-star buff, which is a random level 2 buff, I should say, which is actually going to stack up with something else that we have, which lasts for 3 turns. And she additionally recovers 1 energy, which is not bad. So as we just mentioned before, with the combination of the energy restoration, we are effectively putting ourselves at 3 energy every single turn if we ever go down to less than 1 energy, which is strong, because that means, again, Choo becomes basically free. We don't have really any real downtime once we cast Flaming Meteor, so we won't be stuck into using something like a basic. We can get into our next turn, which, by the way, Flaming Meteor does, of course, make you, unable to be mentioned, as I mentioned before. But this allows you to just then have that flat out, just straight up mobility to get right back into it. Another really good bonus with her trait is that it also has the ability to give you movement 1, which is not exclusive to the Evergreen Pendant, which we'll talk about in just a second. So let's talk about the weapons. So the weapons here, we chose the Fusing Prism as the main weapon of choice. Beryl has a pretty good selection of wands that she can go through. Starry Sky Heritage is another one. I think the Resentment Broom is another really good one you can use. There's a fair amount of good wands for her just to give her the flat magic attack up, but this one pretty much works as similarly as how the Magician works, where for every 1 enemy hit you get an additional flat amount of damage. At max 5 stars this becomes 20%, so an additional 20% of damage for that Flaming Meteor skill when you hit a group amount of enemies. And of course it increases piercing damage, which is also pretty nice for Choo, which only will give you the small damage up, which again still helps. For engravings, we did choose Sword for this one to get that magic attack boost of 15%. If I were to recommend a stronger option, go flat magic attack, percent magic attack, and then whatever else is your third, is ideally would be the way you'd want to go. But yeah. Next up we have the cup resonance, where we have our Evergreen Pendant. We'll talk about what our resonance does in just a second, but Evergreen Pendant is here because when we are healed, we are granted a level 2 buff. It's the same buffs as her trait, but we do not have the movement that we don't get. So we get everything else. We get attack, crit, P defense, magic defense, or healing. And how this works is this actually works on top of the resonance effect. If you guys don't know, lifesteal is a way of effectively healing yourself. Even just by normal skill, you can use, of course, a dedicated healer, which we'll talk about in just a second with partners and everything. But the really cool thing here is you can hit something, which she gets a lot of HP back, because the whole point of this being an AoE nuke build or a strong single target build, she can get a lot of HP back. Because remember, this is a heal for every time she hits something. So if she hits multiple things with the Choo, or she gets a strong AoE hit hitting 4 to 5 enemies, that's just a straight up heal, which is again healing her, which activates the pendant to give you the boost, and it also keeps her relatively healthy, which is again also a really good option. So that's why I did choose Evergreen Pendant as the overall option. And yeah, next up is going to be our chariot card choice. I don't know why I said chariot like a bird. What am I, a bird? Anyway, but this is what I chose. I chose magic attack percent, pre-defense, and the bonus extra effect. This is a pretty good one, all things considered. It did get 2 magic attack rolls, so I'm not really too mad about it. So yeah, but as you can see, it increases damage by 8%, and for each additional damage it hits, This effect does become double once I get to level 50, which is in one more level. So additional damage, of course, is going to be applying to the Flaming Meteor, which again what we want to use the most of. So that is that. But this is basically the build in question. Let's talk about our skills. As we mentioned before, these are our main skills of choice. And yeah, so now I'm gonna pause the video here, talk about some potential partners, and talk about the leader skill faction that you should run her with. So the first unit I'm going to be recommending here is actually going to be Ryra. I'm actually going to be recommending her specifically for the leader skill. Now, if you wanted to use a leader skill, it's obviously optional, but if you wanted to use a leader skill, she is obviously a sort of Convallaria unit. And when I do use her in Clash, I do tend to use Ryra for the leader skill, because the leader skill is actually pretty good because it gives you attack plus 10%. It gives you defense plus 20%, damage delta plus 8%, and decreases damage taken by 8%, which is pretty nice. I think that that's actually really nice for just sustain. It does help your tank survive a little bit more with the extra defense, so that is really good. And since both of our tanks that we tend to partner up with Beryl are also sort of Convallaria units, being Momo and Mytha, that also helps out very well. Next up is going to be Edda. Edda, unfortunately, is the only unit that does not get the benefit of the leader skill, but Edda brings us another really good buff in Guiding Gleam, which gives damage dealt up 3, magic defense up 2, movement plus 1, and she can also dispel disruption effects from targets, which is really strong. But the big reason why we use her is for Wine Barrel casting, which will set the tiles that it is hit on to liquor tiles. And when an enemy is on these tiles, they have a reduced magic defense of 40%, also reducing their speed and also reducing their movement by 1. This is a really good way to accelerate the Flaming Meteor's damage output to make her hit like an absolute freight train. So that is why I actually do recommend Edda if you do have her. If you have, if you did pull her, good job, because she's actually pretty good. Next up is going to be our GOAT Iana. Iana is here because it really does help accelerate the strat to peak power, because you do need you either need to have a good timed urgent order, or you need Iana. It's one of the two. Iana can give you Princess Prayer, which is the skill that allows your ally to move again. Now with the way that speed is set up, Beryl moves before Iana, which basically means you can have Beryl set up the Flaming Meteor attack, and then Edda's gonna go in, set the liquor tiles, and buff with Guiding Gleam, and then you have Iana, who's gonna do Princess Prayer to just rain all that damage down on those enemies that got close within that section of damage, which is pretty nice. And that's really just what she's there for. Of course, she's obviously our healer. She also brings an extra guard, which also gives you a unit that you can use to face plant to bosses or face plant themselves into a section of enemies where they can kind of group up and get closer into the tiles. So that is also a thing. So yeah, that's why I do like Iana. Our tank of choice, we technically like Momo. Momo's really good because Momo has the ability to push and pull things. And if you're not catching on why that's important, then it's basically because we want Momo to push and or pull units into the tiles of the Flaming Meteor, meaning that more targets get hit, which is basically why we like Momo the most out of this option. Mytha also works too if you're looking for just a good tank just to kind of face plant into. And also her disruption barrier is a really good way to finish off weakened enemies, because once you pull something in and she gets her stacks of the repulsion barrier, and those enemies are going to be trying to at least come around you that are still surviving, that are very much weakened from the Flaming Meteor, they attack into Momo and they basically die, which is a really good thing there. So that's why I do actually recommend Momo. Mytha does have a little bit better bulk, I would say, than what my Momo has, but overall, still not a bad option. And yeah, we also can throw Gloria in here too. Gloria, of course, for the buffing, and of course her special flag aura, which gives a little bit more damage, but yeah, for the most part. But that's going to be what we have to say about our partners for Beryl. Again, she's a really good magic DPS unit, and she is arguably one of the strongest ones in the entire game, so do not miss her if you already gotten her. But this is me, your boy Stingren. I'll forward it over to the gameplay, and I'll see you guys in just a moment. Peace. Alright, so here we are using her in Clash, and I played this one a little bit bad, all things considered. I started out by urging ordering to my Beryl because I wanted her to kind of get the AoE ready immediately. I didn't think the Nurgle in the Fake Hole would move, even if I planted my my Mytha here, which was a mistake, which you'll soon see. So this Mytha goes for heal. I have my tiles set. And now at this point, I am just trying to bait them, or bait a good amount of enemies into these tiles. Now obviously I could have maybe used the movement boost instead to maybe position my Simona like right here, like around here, which would put the Raiwa in tile and also put the Dantelian in tile. So that could have been my play. I also could have masked up with my Cole here to allow myself to have to just not take that damage, which could have helped. So my Mytha does bite the dust because of the Fako, which is annoying. I do set up my wine tiles as normal. I didn't Guiding Gleam, which I should have did there too. Again, not the best gameplay for this one, but we're gonna Princess player and just fire off our big AoE, and it's gonna hit essentially basically everyone. We hit 4 enemies off this guy, which very strong. No, 3 enemies. Yeah, 4 for 4. My bad. We hit the Mytha, and as you can see, Mytha walking on these flame tiles basically just makes her die. And I make another bad move here. Since I didn't mask, I didn't have the movement up, and I could have gotten around the Raiwa, could have got a back attack instead. But it does ultimately not mattering because Beryl's just gonna come in and clean up. And we do allow our guard, that's our princess guard, to kind of be like a sponge tank for a little bit, just so we allow our Beryl to get back online. So, which is what we did there. So now we're gonna Ragnarok here just to get the big damage off. Again, as you can see, we're gradually healing the damage we take because of the resonance effect. And I'm gonna do this just to get a little bit of extra damage from Fakal, and we're gonna finish them off with the Yana. We don't really need to heal because again, once we hit something again like this, we're gonna heal up basically most of our HP back, and then we just get ready to start destroying the rest of the stage, and the PvP match is basically over. And that's really just how it works with Beryl, is you hit something really, you hit a group of enemies really hard, and you basically cripple down their defenses, and you basically have the other remaining units in your section to just finish up and clean up. That's basically it. But yeah, I did just heal there just because I was like, whatever, why not? And yeah, there we go. And that's gonna be that. And I'll take you over to the PvE clear I did of a random stage to kind of give you more of a better example of what's happening. Alright, so we're going to be using this stage as the test. It's a lot of enemies here on a small map, which is again what I personally like to do, is again find a stage with small enemies and I can get that set up. So I position my guard just so they can kind of just jump in and start attacking him. Again, since the guard doesn't count as an actual deployable character, he kind of just dies for free, essentially. He does hit my Momo and he does hit my Reiwa, which was a little annoying. I could have actually put Reiwa in the front so I could hit this guy, but that's unfortunate. He does also hit my Beryl, which is a little annoying, but I am just going to set up the erosion. Nothing really else I can do because I'm kind of pinned down in movement. And I'm going to use the friend Beryl, the one that comes with this mission, to do this. And then I'm going to start setting up my tiles. And as you can see, I go for the urgent order on this one to see if it can work, but it doesn't. But there we go. We set up the Guiding Gleam, the tiles. We set up the effect now, and then boom. We basically just nuked off a big portion of the map just like that. We nuked off essentially everyone there. Like, there's only a little bit of enemies left, and now everyone can kind of just die by just a follow-up cleanup effect. So we're just going to clean up with everyone and just do our damage. You know, we're going to keep everyone healthy, and we're just going to clean up. That's it. Just clean up. And yeah, that's pretty much the strat in a nutshell. Is you use Beryl to get a big nuke off on something, and then you pretty much just clean up, and then you pretty much just win from there. That's pretty much the main strat there. But that's gonna be it for you guys here today. I'll see you guys next time with more sort of Convallaria content. Peace.